Research suggests that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. So it's important to equip the next generation with skills they may need. I'm joined now by Dr. Alice Bunn, Chief Executive of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us today. How can we prepare our children for this fast-changing world?
Wow, that's a big question, isn't it? We focus on a number of things. So first of all, that practical experience, that hands-on experience is really, really important, and that can happen already in primary school. It can happen through secondary school. At the institution, we put in place a whole range of opportunities. But secondly, those digital skills are really, really important. We talk about the virtual world as though it's something completely divorced, completely separate from the real world, whereas actually the virtual world is our training ground, if you like. It's far quicker to use digital skills to test out some new innovations rather than build the whole prototype. So those digital skills are going to be really, really important. But the third thing that we're concentrating on, and this has been quite interesting, is a fantastic initiative coming from our younger members, is to build resilience, mental health support, because actually living in a fast-changing world, it is pretty tough, right? So we need to be able to build those skills as well. And I would say, in reference to your first statistic, absolutely right, 85% of those jobs are unknown, but 80% of the workforce that's operating in 2030 is the workforce that is already in place today. So it's not just the kids, right? We've got to help upskill the older generations too.
Now, you touched on there some of the work we do in primary schools to encourage children into that STEM area. I mean, how can professional bodies like the Institution of Mechanical Engineers sort of encourage children to consider taking these STEM subjects?
Yeah, totally. It's so important, isn't it? It's so important. So as well as those opportunities to, be really hands-on, get really practically involved, it's really important that the younger generation recognise that that could be them. So those relatable role models are really, really important. We are fantastically proud at the institution that we have 7,500 STEM ambassadors. So 7,500 amazing people who have full-time jobs, who are prepared to go out into schools and stand up there and let kids know what it is to be an engineer, right? Because we all have those stereotypes. Doctors do not always wear white coats. Engineers certainly do not always wear overalls. They look like, me and you, right? So we need to really bust those myths. And I think, the final thing that we do is to really showcase some of the fantastic real-world contributions that engineering makes. There's been some remarkable engineering stories coming out of the COVID crisis, for instance. And I think, particularly for the younger generation, that really matters to them. They really are purpose-driven. They want to do something that matters. We have a mission that is improving the world through engineering. And I think that younger generation really inspires me because they're so driven.
So when we're looking at STEM, what particular areas, or what specific areas, should I say, need developing further?
Super easy. Super easy. Net zero. Net zero is we're describing it as our greatest engineering challenge ever. If you think about, in particular, let's focus on energy. If you think about how we rely on our current energy supplies, 80% of them come from fossil fuels. We have a massive engineering transition to make. And the good news is, often the technology is already there. Right, we'll see wind go from 6% to 40%. We'll probably see an increase in nuclear. We'll probably see hydrogen coming on as an energy source. And we have those things today, but the scale up, that's the real challenge. So all of those skills that we need to achieve net zero by 2050 are, 100%, number one issue.
And your background, of course, was in space, which is an incredibly exciting subject to study and actually leads so well into STEM and encouraging children perhaps to take a STEM subject.
Yeah, it's hugely powerful. I mean, it's a real magnet for younger children to get excited about STEM. It's interesting. People always talk about the rockets and the missions to the moon, etc. I used to feel like a little bit of a fraud because I wasn't that kid that gazed out of her bedroom window, in awe of the moon and the stars and the sun, etc. For me, it was really about what matters. And for me, when I learnt about the power of environmental monitoring from space for the Earth, that was really what hooked me. Over 50% of the essential climate variables that we need to even understand what's going on can only be measured from space.
Joy, it's been so lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming in.